Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Diego, and we're here for another live stream. We're running a little bit late. I was supposed to be on live at 6 p.m., but I was just so tired. I was taking my siesta. Here's my beautiful wife, Karina, from the now soon to be in process free country of Venezuela, thanks to our very brave and honorable military. And thanks to the courageous decision makers in Washington, D.C., though they, did what they had to do. It's Diego with Karina for a YouTube live stream, your K-1 Visa Green Card channel. Just a disclaimer, I'm not an immigration attorney. I don't work for USCIS. I don't work for any immigration attorney companies. I don't give you legal advice, but I can say it's 2026. I've got 13 years experience processing K-1 visas and green cards. And we started this live stream actually in Bogota, Colombia, where Karina and I, we dated each other for almost 3 years. And then I drug her to the United States of America, brought her across, the mountains and the Caribbean Sea, and we got married in Florida, and here she is. And in 3 months, we will be applying for her 10-year green card. Now, just as a thing here for those folks who are still concerned about those pauses and blocks in those countries. Okay, now I've been reaffirming that Venezuela now, K-1 visas and green cards are not going to be blocked, okay, for fiancés from Venezuela. Okay, just so you guys know that. So if you're from Venezuela living and you're in Colombia trying to get through this process, relax. Now that Venezuela is now in the hands of the U.S. government, basically. President Trump said that he is going to run Venezuela, and well, not him personally, but his team will run Venezuela until a new government is put back in there that is actually going to, run the country like it's supposed to be, like a republic and not like a communist dictatorship. What's interesting is that the communist Maduro was, captured in his house, in his pajamas, with his wife, she was in her pajamas, by folks who are my friends. I consider my friends in the U.S. military, and their names will be forever nameless, and their identities will be forever secret, unless they decide to retire from the military and maybe come out publicly and say, what they did, which I doubt will happen. Because, when you're in special forces in the U.S. military, you want to do your job quietly and without any publicity and without any fanfare. And that's exactly what the U.S. military did. They went into the backyard of Nicolas Maduro and his wife, rousted him out of bed, and put him in a helicopter, flew him to the USS Iwo Jima, which was a ship. The fake news media are identifying the ship as an aircraft carrier, which it is not an aircraft carrier. It's for Marines, U.S. Marines. They put him on the USS Iwo Jima, and then they took him from there to Puerto Rico, and then from Puerto Rico they flew him to New York. Now New York has a communist mayor. Okay, so Maduro should feel right at home in New York City, considering the city is now ran by the same mindset and mentality as Maduro. But with that said, the President of the United States is in control of this whole operation and is going to ensure justice is served. This channel was created for you guys to help you get your K-1 visas and your green cards. And just as a follow-up, when Venezuela has been restored fully to a republic, the U.S. Embassy in Caracas will reopen. The personnel that are currently in Bogota, Colombia, at the U.S. Embassy in Colombia will relocate back to Caracas, Venezuela. And then those folks will then reopen the embassy. And hopefully I'm working behind the scenes. So hopefully I can help get Venezuela removed from that list of rogue nations. Now that President Trump says he's in control of Venezuela, well, then there's no reason for Venezuela to be on a list of rogue nations. They can take it off the list, and I'm working behind the scenes to do that. And that's all I'm going to say on that. So I got the American flag here. I got this American flag and for today's celebration for the military that went in and did their duty. And Karina, she has her Venezuelan flag, and she is ready for a celebration. Today is actually it's the second anniversary of Karina arriving in the United States via Miami. And so it's a great day actually for Karina, being that this is her second anniversary in the United States. And Cornell Rivers is up to bat. Hello, Cornell. Cornell's a member of the channel. Sorry for the late start on the live stream, but at 6 o'clock, I was in siesta mode and I couldn't wake up. I was just wore out tired. It's been a busy day. To celebrate our 2-year anniversary in the United States with Karina, we went to Texas Roadhouse, and I had the half a slab of baby back ribs, and Karina, she had our big porterhouse steak. And so we celebrated 2 years in the United States, and we celebrated the capture of the narco-terrorist Maduro. It's late, 8:31 p.m. Central Time, so it's 9:31 p.m. in New York and 7:30 p.m. in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and 6:30 p.m. in California. But I apologize for the late start on getting the live stream kicked off. If you are a subscriber to the channel, then you can comment and ask me questions and ask me any questions you want. I've got 13 years experience now processing green cards and K-1 visas. There's nothing I can't answer. There's no questions that I don't know how to answer. But don't ask me questions about, the H-1B ones or the student visas. I don't really know much about student visas. But K-1 visas, K-2, spousal visas, and 2-year, 10-year green card and lifting conditions off of green cards, I can give you the answers right here during the live stream. But lots of people are accustomed to me starting the live stream at 6 p.m. Central Time, but I'm 2.5 hours late. So I don't blame you if you are busy doing something else. I fully understand, but we are here. We are not going to forget about you guys. Karina's got her Venezuelan t-shirt on, and I've got my black t-shirt on. I don't know. It seems like black works well with the live stream, with the lights and everything. Being able to not reflect so much, but there you go. We got the MAGA pixie dust here ready to go, and the Mountain Dew salutes if you are so inclined. I know it's a Saturday night, so most of you maybe are either having dinner or with your family, but I just wanted to jump on here live to let you guys know that we are here and we're ready to answer your questions if you so choose. If everybody's busy and there's no time, you got other things going on, then I understand, but I'll just continue on. If you are from one of those countries that's on a block or a pause, and if you are in the United States with a 2-year green card, you must still file for the 10-year green card. You must still file your 751. Okay? File your USCIS form 751. Doesn't matter what country you're from in the world. If you have a 2-year green card and you are getting close to your window of time where your 2-year green card expires, remember it expires, and when it's expired, it's no more. It's gone. It's forever gone. You have to lift the conditions off of it. Mandatory within 90 days before your expiration date. So look on your 2-year green card. Look for the expiration date. Within 90 days before it expires, you got to file your I-751. It's a joint paperwork. Your husband and wife, you file the paperwork together with all the evidence that you've collected over the years, the last 2 years, and get ready for your processing for your 10-year green card. What's going to happen is, no matter what country you're from, USCIS is still going to send you a letter of extension for your 2-year green card. They're going to give you a 48-month extension letter, and then during that 48th month, that's when immigration's going to figure out how to adjudicate your case. Okay? If you submitted a fantastic 2-year green card, or now 10-year green card, if you submitted a fantastic 10-year green card application with tons of evidence, you will get adjudicated and you will get your 10-year green card. Remember, you must file joint tax returns. You're a married couple, okay? One of the first things that immigration look at when they adjudicate your 10-year green card is, did you file joint tax returns together? You must do that. If you don't file a joint tax return with your husband or wife, your American citizen husband or wife, there's going to be issues, okay? There's going to be problems, and you're going to be explaining yourself. So file a joint tax return. Karina, well, right now, Karina, it's January of 2026. Happy New Year, by the way. It's January of 2026, January 3rd, 2026. So we are waiting for Karina's W-2. I'm waiting for my 1099s. And then, any other paperwork that I have to file for a joint tax return on IRS Form 1040. Once I get all the W-2s and the 1099s in my hand, I'm going to sit down with Karina and go over with her again how to fill out a 1040 IRS tax return. She knows how to do it, but I'm going to go over it again with her so she fully understands, so she doesn't have to pay one of those companies in the future to process tax returns. She can do it. I can do it right here on the computer. And it's not difficult to do. Filing a tax return is not hard. You just got to make sure you don't make any mistakes. Immigration will review your tax returns when you file your 751. So you're going to have your G1650 form, which is how you pay for the 751. Then the next form you're going to have is going to be your G1145. So you get a text message from immigration saying they received your 10-year green card application. And then after that, you're going to have your form 751, and it's going to be filled out correctly. No mistakes, zero errors. You cannot make any mistakes on any of your green card paperwork. None. If you make a mistake right now, your green card will be denied and everything sent back to you. USCIS is in a zero tolerance mode for mistakes on paperwork. Then after that, you're going to have your joint tax returns, your marriage certificate certified by the clerk of the court, and a signed certified marriage certificate, certified divorce decrees, annulments, death certificates, etc., and evidence of your relationship going back from when you first started your dating to when you got into the relationship, when you got married, and the honeymoon, everything. Karina and I, we started dating each other in 2021. It's now 2026. So in March of this year, when we filed for Karina's 10-year green card, we're going to have pictures, photos of us with family and friends together from 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 2026. So we're going to have a 6-year window of time of showing photos together. When Karina arrived in the United States 2 years ago today, 2 years ago today, Karina was landing with me. I accompanied her from Bogota, Colombia to Miami in this airplane right here. This was the airplane we were in. And we started the process. I called a medical doctor up who was authorized by the State Department to give medical exams. I scheduled for Karina's medical exam for her green card. We got a brand new 693 signed by the civil surgeon. We got her vaccinations recertified, and then we applied for her social security number. Once we got her social security number, we put her on the bank account, and then since February of 2024, we have been collecting the evidence of her, being here, married to me, on the banks, as a joint account holder, on the bills, the electric bill, water bill, trash bill, etc. And we've been collecting the evidence for the last 2 years, almost 2 years. It's 2 years actually today. So come March, in 3 months, at the end of March, we're going to have a mountain of evidence to submit to immigration. And today we celebrated Karina's 2-year anniversary in the United States. And we also celebrated the capture of Nicolas Maduro, the communist dictator in Venezuela. And boom. We took pictures at Texas Roadhouse. We're going to put those pictures in her 10-year green card application, etc. Cornell River, still waiting to hear from the embassy in Senegal. Gambian's interview is there. Do you think that will be a long delay since Gambia is on the restriction list? If Gambia, they're on the restriction list, it depends on if they're a bloc country or a pause country. If they're a bloc country, okay, then all of the interviews are going to be on hold. Okay, they're going to be on hold, or they're going to be denied at the interview. It depends on the consular officer. Okay, will there be? So the question is, will there be a delay in Senegal? Not for if Senegal's, so it's on a paused country. Is Gambia on the list of paused countries or blocked countries? I can't remember. I need to get a list of these. But if like Venezuela is on the list of paused countries, so that means that K1 visas for Venezuelans are getting processed, green cards, etc. In America, the 10-year are going to be just put on hold. But the store, okay, so no, they're going to be still adjudicated. But the consular office is going to have a discretion on whether to approve it or deny it. But they're not going to be stopped. So if there's lots of K1 visa interviews scheduled for Gambians in Senegal, then obviously it's going to slow the process down a little bit, but not too much. But paused countries, okay, they're not blocking K1s, and they're not blocking green spousal visas. They're just in a block country. They're blocking tourist visas. They're blocking student visas, except those kind of visas. If you want to come here as a student, you're not going to come here. You're not going to get a student visa if you're in a block country. If you're from a paused country like Venezuela, then K1 visa is going to still get approved and adjudicated so long as you qualify for the benefit. Okay, Karina, we're going to file for her 10-year green card in the end of March. It may take a little longer to get adjudicated, but okay, that's okay. If after 2 years, if we haven't heard anything from immigration, I'm going to have a federal judge adjudicate it for us. It's easy. I'll just file a mandamus lawsuit and say, take a look at our green card application, yes or no. Don't be jerking this around. But I think in 2 years from now, there's going to be a lot more changes with immigration once the immigration process and the new laws have been put in place and everything calms down. Then the process is going to speed back up again. But it's going to speed up in the next 6 to 8 months. But if you are in one of those block countries, then nothing's going to happen. You're not going to get a visa. Okay? If you are from a paused country, K1s and spousal visas and green cards are being adjudicated. Student visas are being blocked on paused countries, and that's it. The F1, F2 visas, student visas, things like that. That's it. So that's for the paused countries. Venezuela, I'm working on trying to get Venezuela removed from that list. In Cuba also. Now with the removal of Maduro from Venezuela, the Cuban regime, the communists running Cuba, depended upon oil from Venezuela to fund their economy. Now that Trump is now basically running Venezuela, the Cuban communist government will probably not survive the next 6 months, in my opinion. 5 months ago, I promised Karina in my own way that Maduro would no longer be in Venezuela running the country, and 5 months has passed, and I was right again. And I just from my 20 years experience in the military, I just knew how this was playing out. I knew what the plans were. Basically, it's, the playbook. I understood the playbook, and it went by the playbook. The only difference is this time, no Americans were killed when they went into Venezuela. And you know why? That the American helicopters were not shot at by the Venezuelan military forces. Do you know why Americans were not attacked by the Venezuelan military forces when the U.S. Marines and the folks that went in? Because nobody likes Maduro. Venezuelans, for the most part, none of them like Maduro. So when the United States entered Venezuela in Caracas at 1 o'clock in the morning, which is the basic playbook, which, then they didn't want to confront the U.S. military. They didn't want to hurt Americans. Okay? The U.S. military in Venezuela was welcomed. Karina's brother probably was texting us at 1 a.m. At like 1 o'clock in the morning. Karina's brother, who lives in what time was it?
Venezuela too.
Right, but like at 1 o'clock in the morning, and 2 o'clock in the morning Venezuelan time, Karina's brother was texting Karina, telling her, "Hey, I can see American helicopters above my house, and I can hear explosions going off over there in the distance." And but he wasn't scared, and he wasn't worried at all, because he knew that the time had come for the U.S. military to do their job, which I've been trying to get them basically behind the scenes to do for the last few months, to take out the hemorrhoid that was holding back Venezuela from becoming great again. Like President Trump said today, he wants to make Venezuela great again. And that's exactly what he's going to do with the oil money. So the oil companies, the American oil companies, will now go into Venezuela, reopen their infrastructure that they built and paid for, which Maduro took from them, stole. Maduro basically took control of American oil companies in Venezuela and kicked the Americans out and stole all of their infrastructure. Well, you don't do that, okay? When an American company goes into Venezuela or any country, there are contracts that are signed, and there are promises that are kept and made by the joint agreements. And Maduro, being the communist that he is, he basically didn't recognize the agreements that were put in place by the oil companies like Chevron. So the oil companies, the U.S. oil companies, will go back into Venezuela, reopen their infrastructure, and start helping the Venezuelan people. They're going to create jobs that's going to hire Venezuelans to go back to work, Venezuelans with expertise in oil drilling and the transportation hub and the infrastructure, like the metro in Venezuela, in Caracas, the metro. The Germans maintained the metro in Caracas, Venezuela, the German engineers. When Maduro kicked the Germans out of Venezuela, the metro started to fall apart and go into disrepair, which caused problems for transportation for Venezuelans. Well, I've got no doubt that the German engineers will be able to return back to Venezuela now and redo the maintenance on the metro and get the metro up and running again properly. I figure in the next 6 months, the economy will turn around, but it all depends on, number one, the Venezuelan people, and number two, the government that is going to be running Venezuela once Trump turns power back over to the Venezuelans. You cannot turn Venezuela over to another communist dictatorship. You can't do that, because then you'll be back where you were, square one. Nothing's going to change. South America right now is breathing a sigh of relief. The people in Bolivia, the people in Peru, Chile, they all didn't recognize the Maduro government. And Petro, the president of Colombia, he's a short timer. He's only got a few months left in office. This year, Colombia is going to have elections, and they're going to remove Petro by the ballot box. He only gets one term anyway. He's probably the least popular president in Colombian history. Nobody likes Petro, and the Colombians are going to have big celebrations when Petro's removed from office. But it won't require the U.S. military to do that unless Petro continues to allow the nefarious activities to continue in his country. But Petro's time is up soon anyway, at the ballot box, and he knows it. So he's going to continue to needle and disrespect President Trump, which is, normal for communists anyway. We got a communist mayor running in New York City, Mamdani or whatever the heck his name is. He's criticizing Trump, calling it a war crime, all this other crap. The guy is incompetent. The mayor of New York is a little kid, a naturalized American from Uganda who's a full-blown Marxist who has no idea about anything. He's a total idiot, in my opinion. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm just saying he's incompetent. Eric Hamilton. Hola, Eric. What's going on? How are you? How's your family? Brownie, RSPS, Venezuela is free. I'm happy you got to see this day, Karina. ¿Tú entiendes? ¿Tú entiendes? Karina says she's happy also to be here. And she said it's a process. It's now the Venezuelans have to take this opportunity, which is good news for Venezuelans who are engaged to Americans. There's lots of Americans engaged to Venezuelans, and and they couldn't figure out how to get their K1 visas because some of the Venezuelans didn't have the resources to fly and live in Colombia. Like Karina, she lived in Colombia for almost 6 years. That's why we were able to date each other for so long, because she was a resident of Colombia. There's lots of Venezuelans that engaged to Americans. They would have the Venezuelans would go to Colombia for a vacation for a couple of weeks, meet their American citizen sponsors, hang out for a couple of weeks, and then go back to Venezuela. Now, there's an opportunity for the U.S. Embassy, who is hosting the Venezuelan embassy, the U.S. Venezuelan embassy. They're being hosted in Bogota. Now they can return back to Caracas. Karina's brother was woken up by his house was shaking from the bombs that were going off, but those missiles and bombs that were fired by the U.S. military at military bases, not civilians, at military bases, woke him up, and he starts texting Karina, and then Karina wakes me up and says, "Hey, Americans military's in Venezuela." And I'm like, okay, that's great. I wasn't surprised. This military operation in Venezuela was supposed to take place on Christmas Day, December 25th. But the weather sucked in Caracas that day. It was bad weather. High winds made it impossible for the helicopters to fly into Caracas. The U.S. Chinooks and the Blackhawks couldn't fly too well because they could fly, but the weather wasn't conducive for this kind of military operation. So they changed the day to today, January 3rd, 2026. Karina's 2-year anniversary in the United States. Now we can celebrate the removal of the dictator from Venezuela. Venezuela is free, Brownie. Also, congratulations on being in the United States for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years went by this fast, okay? The 2 years Karina has been in the United States, I still remember packing up the apartment in Bogota, Colombia, giving away our furniture to our family in Bogota. We were giving stuff away. We were packing suitcases, getting ready to fly to Miami. 2 years ago, we were at the airport, in El Dorado Airport in Bogota, Colombia, 2 o'clock in the morning. Today, at 2 o'clock in the morning on January 3rd, we were in Bogota, El Dorado Airport. Her brothers, I've never seen them cry before, but this time I did. And then Karina and I, we got on the plane, the Boeing 747, Avianca Airlines flight from Bogota to Miami, got off the plane in Miami, went through the immigration checkpoint, the Border Patrol welcomed Karina to the United States. They said, "Welcome to America." They didn't ask her any questions. They took out her green card, her K1 visa package out. It was all sealed up. Karina gave it to the Border Patrol. They opened it up. They took some documents out. They went into the computer. They processed her I-94. They asked me more questions than they asked Karina. Karina, they said, "Welcome to America." And they processed her I-94 within about 5 minutes. And that was it. She was in Miami. And then we went to the rental car pickup at the airport. And then I drove us in the rental vehicle, the Jeep. I rented a Jeep Cherokee because we needed space for the suitcases. And I drove, Karina and I, we drove from Miami back to here in the Panhandle of Florida. It was about a 12-hour drive. And we stopped off on the way and we ate at some Mexican restaurants in Palm Beach County, Palm Beach, Florida. We stopped and we drove through Fort Lauderdale. We drove through St. Augustine, Florida. We drove up the east coast of Florida. I could have taken the shortcut across the turnpike, but I just drove straight up the east coast to Jacksonville, then across on Interstate 10. And now Karina got to see about 25 or 30 counties of Florida in her first 24 hours in the United States. And here she is, 2-year green card holder for 2 years. And in 3 months from now, we're going to be filing to lift the conditions. We got evidence out the yin yang. Okay. So Karina's family was texting her at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, their time, saying the U.S. helicopters are flying over our house. Bombs are going off around our houses. But the strikes were precision strikes on military bases. And what's interesting is that the Venezuelan military didn't try to shoot down the U.S. helicopters or to shoot the planes down. You know why? Because the U.S. military basically is on the side of the United States. There's only a few of those communist generals, which are Cubans, that are really the instigators. The Cubans are the instigators in the Venezuelan military, not the Venezuelans. The Venezuelans, like the general military, the basic inscription military, love Americans. They didn't want to fight us. And when it came down to mission day, they didn't fight us. They didn't. They did not fire one shot at Americans. And they said, okay, yeah, Maduro's in there, go get him. Basically is what happened. The helicopters landed in the backyard of Maduro's house in his secure compound. The U.S. military entered the compound. Maduro tried to run for his safe house. He had a safe room that was built with steel walls around it. But he was in bed with his wife when the U.S. military entered his bedroom, and they said, come with us. You're going to be, you're under arrest. And he was arrested and removed from the country. A helicopter to the USS Iwo Jima. The USS Iwo Jima, they then flew him to Puerto Rico. And then from Puerto Rico, they flew Maduro to New York, where he is now in a detention cell. He's in a prison cell in New York City right now, in his gray sweats that the U.S. military gave to him. Okay, he was in I guess he was in his Winnie the Pooh pajamas when he was captured. I don't know. And then he was given a gray sweatsuit to wear. And while he was being transported from Puerto Rico to the United States, and when he was being transported to the USS Iwo Jima, etc., he was blindfolded. A mask was put on his eyes, and he was put earmuffs on so he couldn't hear anybody. He couldn't see anything. He didn't know where he was. He couldn't hear any conversations from Americans. He was in total isolation. Mark Lennon. Hello, everyone. Cheers to Venezuela. Yeah, let's give everybody Mountain Dew salute for paying respects to Venezuela. And I'm trying to get Venezuela removed from that list of rogue nations, because it's ridiculous that if President Trump's now running Venezuela, there's no reason for Venezuela to be on a list of rogue nations, right? That's what I'm saying. So I'm pushing to make that happen. We went to Texas Roadhouse to celebrate the 2-year anniversary, and then on January 14th is our wedding anniversary. Okay? So on January 14th of 2026, we celebrate our second wedding anniversary, and I got to have something planned for Karina, something nice for her to celebrate. So we'll figure out something. All right? Maybe I'll surprise her. Brownie RSPS, wow, busy month for you guys. Happy for you. Oh, it's been busy. It was busy. But the thing is this. We've been collecting evidence for Karina's 10-year green card now for 2 years. It's in an album this thick. When you apply for your 10-year green card from a 2-year green card, you must provide overwhelming evidence of your relationship. You are financially tied to each other. You are happily married to each other. You have financial commitments with each other. You have evidence or photos with family events, Christmas, New Year's, Independence Day. I don't care what it is. You get pictures with family and friends and then all that evidence must be submitted to immigration for the 10-year green card. Mark Lennon, I agree, you get my vote. Well, I'm not running for election, okay? I'm not running for election, but here's the deal. If you hang out with us on this channel, Karina and I, if you stick with us, we will get you through the green card process, 2-year and 10-year. We will get you through the K-1 visa process successfully, and we will get you through the spousal visa process successfully. I will even help you overcome denials, okay? If you made some stupid mistakes on the paperwork and you get a denial in the mail from immigration, don't have a heart attack. Don't panic. Just contact me and I will help you get through it and help you fix it. Okay? If you read the paperwork carefully, if you get a denial for your green card because you messed up the 864 or something, you did something stupid on the paperwork, if you read carefully in the 864 denial, it's going to tell you There's some legal verbiage in there that explains that you can overcome it, but you got to spend more money and you got to fill out a new form. Brownie RSPS, just waiting for my driver's license card in the mail. Very good. Did my test on the 23rd, passed the first time, pretty easy. It's chill compared to the UK test. Well, we're going to give Brownie RSPS a Mountain Dew salute for passing his driver's license exam in Missouri, right? You live in Missouri. You came from the United Kingdom. You live in Missouri. Now, Brownie RSPS, when you get your driver's license, get your driver's license, get your wife's driver's license, put it on a piece of paper like this, I don't know, or somehow, put your driver's license here, your wife's driver's license here, a white background, take a photograph with your phone, and then print the picture nice and big and save it for your 10-year green card application. Okay? Very important. The process does not stop just because you have your 2-year green card. The process continues. You must continue to collect the evidence of your relationship. Living together, commingling funds, joint bank accounts, joint tax returns, etc. If you don't submit a strong green card application for 2-year or 10-year, immigration is going to just straight out deny your case. Okay, that's the new modus operandi coming out of USCIS. You submit a crappy application, we're not going to send you an RFE anymore. We're not going to ask you for more evidence. We're going to deny your application, and then you have to figure out how to fix that. Rick Hamilton, congratulations! Your story is helpful for my K1 for my Cuban. Right, so you have a Cuban fiance on a K1. Cuba is on the list of poorest countries. It's not on the list of bloc countries, okay? And I've been working behind the scenes trying to get Cuba and Venezuela removed from that list of poorest countries because it's absolutely insane that they're on that list, okay? So if you are from Cuba, you're still going to get adjudicated for a K1. You can still file for the green card once you get to the United States. But you must make sure when you go to the K1 visa interview as a Cuban or a Venezuelan, as a poorest country, you must make sure you have an absolute airtight K1 visa package, an absolute airtight green card application with no freaking mistakes, with overwhelming evidence. Because if that happens, like Karina has a green card application for a 10-year green card, it's so fantastic. Okay, it's going to be the blueprint for all future 10-year green card applications. If you submit strong evidence with 0 errors, your Cuban fiance will be perfectly fine. Okay, try to relax. I know it's easy for me to say, but we're in the same boat. But I'm not stressing it. I'm not stressing it. The only people blocked from Cuba, the only people having a hard time from Cuba are tourist visas, student visas. If you have if you're coming in on a student or a Y or an F visa, I believe it is, or a B1, B2, all those are almost impossible to get. But K1s are not on the list. K1s and spousal visas are not on the list of blocks for poorest countries. And Cuba's a poorest country, so the K1's going to process normally. You got nothing to worry about. But as long as your application was fantastic. Brownie RSPS, yeah, will do. We also got her name changed on hers to my last name. Very good. So now you got to make sure that evidence is saved for your 10-year green card application. Your wife has a name change. She took your last name. So she's going to change her passport. She's going to change her driver's license. She's going to change her name on all the bills that come into the house. You must make sure you get copies of those name changes for your 10-year green card application. Because remember, an I-751 is a joint application, husband and wife. It's Karina and I applying for Karina's 10-year green card. It's not Karina applying for her 10-year green card. It is Karina and I applying together for her 10-year green card. Okay? It's a joint effort. All right? The K1, remember, is a benefit. Once you get your green card, you now become you now fall under the rights of legal permanent residency. You now have a right under the Constitution. It's no longer a benefit, it's a right to be here, so long as you don't make any legal mistakes, criminal mistakes, etc. Okay? So once you get your 2-year green card, stay out of trouble. And then you'll get your 10-year green card. Just stay out of trouble and submit a fantastic application. If you do something stupid on a 2-year green card, like multiple infractions on the traffic tickets, multiple the DUIs, etc., then you're going to be having a hard time getting your 10-year green card, if they even approve it. That's when you're going to be bringing in an immigration attorney and a civil attorney or a criminal attorney to try to save you from being deported. But those are the times we're living in, and we're happy for the people of Venezuela. We got people in Venezuela watch us. We're happy for those folks. I'm happy for Karina, especially now her country's been liberated from that freaking narco terrorist. He's going to be sitting in a nice cold prison cell in New York City for a long time. And in accordance with the U.S. Constitution, he is innocent until proven guilty, but he has been indicted for these specific charges. So he's currently an alleged criminal. But once he goes to trial, once all the evidence comes out and gets presented, and if he's found guilty, then he will be living the rest of his life, such as it is, in a cold cell with oatmeal and bread, and no more Venezuelan arepas. Okay, guys, I'm sorry for the late start in the live stream. I was just tired today. I was worn out. I had my siesta. My siesta was, I don't normally have a siesta, okay? But today I had a siesta, and it passed into 6:30 p.m. And I said, okay, we'll do the live stream at 8:30. So we started it just before 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Today's Saturday. I'll be back Monday for another live stream. I'll be making some videos before then. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to log off now. Karina's got to get up early for work tomorrow. 2 o'clock in the morning, she's got to get up. So we're going to be out of here. We'll see you at the next live stream. And once again, we apologize for the late start, but at least we did something. We spoke for 42 minutes. If you're from Cuba, you're a paused country. K1s and green cards are not going to be blocked, okay? But you must present overwhelming evidence of your relationship. See you guys at the next live stream.